Well, hello, and welcome to my statutory. I'm Jane from Snapdragon Life, and I'm a textile artist living in the middle of Scotland, very near to Loch Lomond. I run an online creativity club called the Studio Club, which is about creativity and connection to nature and living life in a more intentional way. And each week I come onto YouTube and I talk about creativity, or I talk about the natural world and my garden, or I talk about how to live life in a slightly different way from the norm. And today is one of the third ones. It's going to be all about having your own business while having a chronic autoimmune condition. Now, when you talk to people who have their own business, one of the things that they all tend to say is, oh, I have to work for myself. I'd be completely unemployable now. And by that, they tend to mean that they like being in charge, they like calling the shots, they are too opinionated, they're not used to doing what other people say anymore. And that's all very valid. And I think that that's sort of the reasons why I started a business, in that I'm not very good at working for other people. But of course, within this group, there is also a subset of people who are actually unemployable in the way that jobs work. Because if you have a chronic disease that really limits your working hours or your stamina or your ability to just get on and push through, it would be very difficult to get a normal job out there. Much easier, I have found, to work for yourself. So, of course, that is in some ways easier said than done. And I had started a business in 2000 because I didn't like my existing job. I was curator of British art for a university art gallery. It was a brilliant job. The collection was brilliant. I had worked so hard to get that job. And then when I got it, I discovered that I didn't like it. It was really quite old-fashioned. So it was all about art history in a very elitist kind of way. It was full of office politics, and my character does not work well with office politics. I get very involved, I get very upset. And I was working in a basement office in a sick building. I had, by that time, a 2-year-old, so I was working part-time. I was working 7:30 till 1:30, and I had Fridays off. I worked all day on a Wednesday. And I had 3 miscarriages, quite close after each other. There was a possibility, though I didn't really pursue it at the time, that the miscarriages had been caused by an accidental chemical leak when the gallery was fumigated. Put it this way, I wasn't staying in that job. And I decided that what I would do would be to go to the opposite extremes. So where I had been in a basement office with no windows, I would work outside. Where I felt unsafe in a sick building, I would be, out in nature and in the open air. So by the time I had my second daughter, my younger daughter, at the end of the year, I was already retraining in horticulture, and I had kind of ideas for what kind of business I would like to do. And of course, if you're a woman and you have small children, you can often sugar in a small business bit by bit by bit by bit during maternity years, or while childcare is still as expensive, so expensive that you may as well be at home and trying to do 6 million things at once. You know, whether that is a good idea, I don't know, but it's very, very common, and it was certainly the route that I went down. I did some lecturing, I did some research for authors, I made baby clothes out of 1950s curtains, I had felt hats, I did some knitting, I kept myself busy, but then I had this idea that nobody was growing cut flowers in Scotland. Hardly anybody was growing cut flowers anywhere. So I would have a cut flower business. And I put my all into that. And that scaled really fast. 5 years on, I was doing weddings, I was sending bouquets right around the country, I did farmers markets, I did events, I had a very active subscription service delivering flowers all around here and into Glasgow. And it was at that point that I became ill. And I became ill with Addison's disease, which is something that it really restricts your energy. And it gives extreme brain fog if you go over your sort of like energy allocation for that day. It gives extreme sort of physical fatigue as well. So it is one of these chronic diseases that you can't push through. And at that point, once the kind of like the crisis of what on earth is happening, why am I so ill, how is it going to be treated, and then trying to work out a treatment, after that period was over, I was able to think about how I can run a business while also having a chronic disease. And now, 18 years on, I think I'm beginning to get there. There's been an awful lot of trial and error. There's been a lot of mistakes, an awful lot of mistakes, a lot of dead ends. But now, I really think that we are in a good place. So, advice. I think that the main thing that I would say is not all chronic diseases are the same. Not all autoimmune diseases are the same. Addison's, I'm very lucky. I don't get much chronic pain. Most of my symptoms are to do with fatigue. And I can pretty much predict that it's always going to be the same unless it gets a little bit worse, and that will be as a result of something that I have done. So I don't have the kind of chronic fatigue that has flare-ups and then is fine, and flare up. You should maybe go down the wave and you have no energy at all. So if I look after myself well, then I truck along just with a lot less hours of the day and a lot less energy. So I wouldn't be much use to an employer who wants somebody then 9 till 5, because I would manage that one day and I wouldn't be in the rest of the week. So that's why I work for myself. So next thing that I would say is, if you have a chronic disease, the things you love doing, the people you love being with, should be a higher priority than your job. You can do both, but if you start by putting all of your business stuff into the jar first, with this thing with the prioritizing, if you start instead by thinking, who do I want to spend time with? What do I want to do with them? What do I want to do for me? What brings me joy? What lights me up? These are the things that you need to put into your life first. Because it's very, very easy, if you have a chronic disease, for you to fight along with societal norms. You know, maybe you're in a job, maybe you've got deadlines, maybe something, and you fight along with that, and then there is no time left over for family or friends or for yourself. And that is a great pity, and it's a great waste of a life, and it doesn't have to be that way. Second thing I would say is that when you are working out what kind of business you want to do, work out where your energy is. Work out what it is that buoys you up. You're basically, I think actually this would apply to anybody, but particularly if you have a chronic disease and you're trying to work and you're trying to live a life, you need to be on as good a physical level as you possibly can. And I'm not talking about, you know, fitness here, like exercise kind of fitness. I'm talking about getting in tune with yourself. I'm talking about nurturing yourself, and that being the main thing of each day. So you work out your energy and you work out how to really optimize that. You work out all of the things that you're wanting to do that are not work, and you make sure that they are your priorities. And then you look at how you can run a business. Now, for me, the things that I can not do in my business, I can't do lots of live events. I can't do lots of traveling. If I'm traveling somewhere, then I would need to be going for a great big block of time, because I find traveling exhausting. I mean, now when I look back to the traveling that I did as a museum curator, or when I did trade shows and things, couldn't do that now. So I know I do no traveling, I don't do lots of live stuff. I really try to not have many appointments, because I know that they are stressful, because there is this idea in my head, it's not always right, that my energy is going to go, my brain's going to go foggy, and I'm going to completely mix up words, which is one of the most embarrassing things that happens to me. So instead, I have created a business that is online, that has lots of recordings like this, but very, very little live material. In the Studio Club, we do maybe one live every couple of months. In Bloom, which is my kind of mentoring course, we have a live every month. And that's it. That is my live interaction with things. But I have created this community so that it feels live without tying me down to a particular time. Other thing is, I need a really slow start, so I never start work before 9. And I need an early finish, so I tend to have finished by 3. And I have within that 2 breaks, one mid-morning and a long one for lunch, and often a walk in the afternoon as well. So you can see that's not an awful lot of hours, but I'm really good at focusing during those hours. I don't do anything else. You know, if I'm recording a video, I'm recording a video. I'm not also checking stuff. I'm not also putting the dishwasher on. I'm not looking at Instagram. I am just doing this, just talking to you. So I think that you need to, first of all, it's a really long way round saying, actually take a good hard look at what it is that you can do. Be very honest with yourself, and then, and only then, when you've got your external priorities, you've got your time for nurturing yourself, and you've got a proper assessment of what your strengths and weaknesses are on a physical illness point of view, only then go and look at work. And the fourth one, which I'm going to leave you with, because obviously I can't tell you exactly how to start a business here, is do not undervalue yourself. And I think that lots of women undervalue themselves. Lots of women starting a business really undervalue themselves because they're wanting the business to work. So they think, well, if I just don't charge enough, or if I do things for free or whatever, then I will not have to stop my business. And I think that people who have an illness and who already kind of on one level see themselves as being a bit broken, a bit of a burden, not living up to their potential, really undervalue themselves. And it is vital that if you're going to start a business and it is going to be a successful business and it is going to make you money so that you can live an independent life, it is vitally, vitally important that you do not undervalue yourself, because the fact that you are chronically ill and have some limitations does not mean at all that you are limited overall. And particularly if you're wanting to start your own business or do anything, or actually, change the job that you are in, because many employers actually do work around members of staff when they become ill. It's really important to go, yes, okay, I can no longer work 8-hour days, but I am still fantastically good at this particular thing. And in fact, because I know that I need to focus, I may be even better. So that would be my tips for having a business while being chronically ill. And it's certainly something that you can do. And I know lots of really successful businesses where behind the scenes people have had to create a life that is much more flexible for themselves. They don't necessarily say it out front. I'm maybe a little bit unusual in that, because I do feel that this is something that has to be put out there as an option for people, because more and more people seem to be getting chronically fatigued. We've got long COVID, fibromyalgia and things that people need to know that it is perfectly possible to work for yourself, to create a really lovely, supportive, nurturing business despite all of that. So anyway, that is my party political broadcast for people with chronic illness. And I'm going to now go and get my nails done, because look, at the moment, I've always been a nail biter, really bad nail biter. If I read particularly, I tend to always biting my nails. And then one of my younger daughter's friends, Shan, she was also a nail biter, and she started getting manicures, and she went from having, hardly any nails to having these beautiful, glamorous nails in really not a long period of time. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what I should do. So 4 weeks ago, I went and got my nails painted by Jane at Tirnanog, and now she is, look, there's been so much growth and I haven't bitten the tops off. She's going to fill that bit in the bottom for me today.